What is up, fanatics? You marvelous legends, you. I'm Josh, and today we are wrapping up one hell of a year by compiling the definitive list of Marvel Legends, the best of the best, the cream of the crop of 2021. If you don't have these, you suck asshole, and if you do, you soar into 2022 riding a wave of glory, because this is the list that nobody can argue. Just kidding. These lists are subjective as hell, but they're fun, and I actually hope you disagree. Comment below who you think are the best Marvel Legends of the year. I'm going to make a separate list for standard release figures, as well as deluxe figures, Build-A-Figures, and lastly, special releases. Now, for this list, here's the criteria I'm looking at. What does it look like on the shelf? Appearance is number one for a reason. Does it have functionality such as articulation, as well as tie-ins to other characters? Accessories count as part of the figure, so those are a big bonus. Does it serve an importance to the Marvel multiverse? And was the figure even wanted? Here's what I'm ignoring for my judgment. Value. What something is worth on the aftermarket fluctuates. Some people get them cheap, while other people spend a pretty penny. And it always changes, so I'm ignoring all of that. FOMO. The fear of missing out. It can get to all of us collectors, but I'm ignoring this for this part of it because, of course, every toddler's parent snatches up a Spider-Man figure. It doesn't mean it's a great figure. This list is for adult collectors, not some dumb kids slamming their figs together on the floor. Lastly, I will be ignoring packaging. No disrespect to mint in-box collectors, you do you. But it's not worth having in the box if it's not a good figure, so for this video, I'm only judging the contents themselves. Full discretion, I've been collecting Marvel Legends for nearly 17 years, so while I am judging all Marvel Legends released to the public in 2021, MCU figs that don't work well with comic figs will receive a harsher treatment because they just don't fit in that well. And here we go. Starting with standard release figures, I will be counting single packed figs at regular price, as well as multi-packs that equate to regular price figures individually. At number 10, Age of Apocalypse Iceman. This is a figure I wasn't overly excited for simply because Hasbro has always let me down with Iceman releases. Not this time. The blue translucent plastic is perfect with the frosted white painted on effects. Hopefully the camera shows it, but it looks so good in hand and pops on the shelf. The chiseled sculpting looks amazing up close with tiny details that scream ice. If we had gotten pinless elbows and some butterfly shoulders, maybe with some additional ice effects, this would have been a top 5 contender. Number 9, Psychoman. We have needed more Fantastic Four villains to fill out the shelf, and this guy comes through. He is unique as hell and just pops. The Hasbro team could have gone larger, but they gave us the base level version to perfection. Look at his legs alone. We've never gotten a legend with this weird leg situation. The hoops attach at the top of the thighs but overhang to just above the knee. They got creative, and it paid off big time. Great paint apps. A cool ass accessory. This guy looks like he stepped out of a Jack Kirby comic panel, and I am here for it. Number 8, Cyber. This bulky bastard came in the Amazon exclusive Wolverine 5-pack. Wolverine is perhaps my favorite comic book character of all time, and we've needed this villain forever. It's a sin we've had to wait so long. Articulation isn't horrible considering his stature. He really stands out on the shelf with some great sculpting and brilliant paint. The dark metallic blue is nice on its own, but we get a light blue painted over the top of the muscles to give depth. He would have been a higher contender if he had actually had longer claws. The claws are there, but they could have been a bit more prominent. An additional head could have helped his ranking. So, he's not perfect by any means. But look at this glorious bastard. We needed him, we got him, and he really pops on the shelf. Worthy of the 8 spot. Number 7, Lady Deathstrike. Speaking of Wolverine villains with claws, this is a figure that we've needed a remake on for a long time. The Toy Biz version is a straight dumpster fire. But look at this beautiful head sculpt. There's no comparison. The cybernetic details are both sculpted and painted, going down her chest and onto her arms. Pinless joints give her a clean look, and for such a small figure, she really dominates attention on the shelf. Forming a theme with Cyber, she really needed some longer claws, but the exaggerated hands do the trick and give her that scary appearance we needed. If they had added a dark wash to the brown, wow, this would have even been higher on the list, but I still love her, and she can go in so many spots in a collection. Number 6, Silver Surfer, the Fallen One. I know what you're thinking, how could a repaint make the best of 2021? Well, it's because this badass figure was much needed and kind of represents a different character than we've ever gotten. I realize it's still Norrin rad, but if you read the phenomenal Donny Cates comics, you know the Fallen One is empowered by the dark matter and brings an all new power set. I've been a huge fan of this Sunfire body mold. It's got amazing articulation, and the gunmetal paint just makes this figure look badass. He was packed in with multiple sets of hands. Dark matter effects go over the fisted hands, a shiny, improved version of Mjolnir, and of course, his trusty board. Throw this guy in with some Cosmic Ghost Rider, the Deluxe King Thanos, and the new Maestro Hulk, and you've got one hell of a modern cosmic collection started. Number 5, Age of Apocalypse Sabretooth. I've been wanting a large, menacing Victor Creed for a long time, so much so that I still use the Marvel Select version on my main display. So when this one was announced, I was actually a little disappointed that we were getting the Age of Apocalypse one before the 90s 616 version. But when you get this one in hand, it's a beast. It is impressive. The second head sculpt looks incredible, and it's on that body mold that was used for the ugly ass Ronald McDonald Colossus. This one's much better. The arm hair is sculpted and painted on, and the details in all of the brown leather looks great. The ponytail swivels to match whatever pose you choose, and the pose I'll be choosing is pairing him up with Wild Child from the original Age of Apocalypse release. Having these two figures complete each other, and I just feel like the fun factor is way up there. Number 4, Ironheart. We've needed the super genius Riri Williams for years now, and Hasbro delivered masterfully. I know we'll probably be getting the MCU version sooner than later, but this comic figure blew me away to the point where I doubt I'll even be looking forward to that release. She came packed in with multiple sets of hands, repulsor blast effects, and smoke trail effects. Now, I love all of these extras, and they make her one of my favorite figures to pose in a flying position. But they didn't stop there. They gave us a helmetless head sculpt that completely blew me away. From the hair to the face, this is one of my favorite head sculpts ever. Number 3, Gamerverse Miles Morales. Holy shit, look at this figure. Packed in with 4 sets of hands, including the yellow electric stinger hands, this guy offers a ton of versatility. The matte black suit has amazing texturing and has a glossy semi-metallic red web pattern painted over it with the sculpt work. So much sculpting. It includes the logos and his eyes, everything sculpted on. We get good articulation with butterfly shoulders, pinless elbows, ankle pivot, and double jointed knees. Now it's not all perfect. The maskless head is trash, straight trash, but that didn't hurt my grading much because I was going to pose him with the mask on anyway. I wish the hips allowed for a little bit more of that old Toy Biz Spidey poses you used to be able to get, but you can achieve some really good positions if you play around with this figure. Some people complained about the neck, but that actually didn't bother me at all. Just look at it.
Well, would you look at that?
Yeah,
He might technically be a Gamerverse figure, but this is what I've been looking for to go on my comic Spider-Man shelf. Number 2, Modular Iron Man. Oh, I've been wanting this guy since the mid-90s. Long before the world fell in love with Tony Stark because of the MCU movies, 90s kids like me got into the character thanks to the cartoon, and the Marvel vs. Capcom video games.
you win.
And here he is in the suit that I think of when I think of Iron Man. The red is so shiny, and the gold is so realistic. Doesn't even look like plastic. This looks like a high-dollar collectible. Packed in with interchangeable hands and repulsor blast effects, this is my favorite Iron Man. After what I feel like a million attempts at different suits that I didn't want to see repeated, Hasbro finally hit a home run with this one. We are definitely in the golden age of Marvel Legends. Now give me a classic Mandarin right meow! Before I get to my number one, here are a few honorable mentions and why they didn't quite make the list. Frogman. Who in the hell thought we were ever gonna get a Frogman? Oh, 2021, what a weird time to be alive. This figure delivered on so many levels, is unique, can get in so many fun poses, and just snatches up attention. It honestly could have been a much higher contender on the list, except I didn't want it. I didn't need it. And I've actually had a lot of debate on where I would even put it on the shelf. Also, the Omega Sentinel. Holy shit. Let's look at what Hasbro did here. They gave us an all-new sculpt for an all-new figure. But they didn't stop there. They gave us 2 completely different head sculpts and 2 completely different sets of arms. Not hands, but arms. If you're keeping up with modern X-Men comics, then this is one that you are very happy to put on your shelf. But ultimately, there were small details about her that just kept her from quite cracking the list. And lastly, Omega Red. If you take the release that we got previously and kit bash it with this one, you've got a contender for top 5. It's honestly a great figure on its own, but neither release got him quite right. And when you have to mix 2 figures together to make one good one, well, I gotta take away points for that. Let's get back to the best of the best. Number 1, Ultron. We finally have the Ultron that we've always wanted. He just screams classic. He didn't even come with many accessories. But this just proves that when Hasbro nails a classic sculpt, gives a brilliant silver finish, and nails the articulation for appropriate posing, we will shut the hell up and be happy. This guy can be an army builder, or he can stand alone on the shelf. He just looks so amazing from every angle. With just a little bit of work, they've made a figure that steals the show. My eyes go to him every time. And then, with the one accessory that they did plug in there, that Kirby crackle. Wow. Just wow. It's the small details that make him perfect. I struggled to decide which figure I wanted to be my favorite of the year, and then it clicked. Which figure did I have the most fun posing, taking pictures of? What did I feel like I needed the most, wanted the most, and kept coming back to? It was Ultron. There we have it. That's the best standard release figures of 2021, but we're not done yet. Hasbro gave us some amazing deluxe figures this year, and here are my favorites. At number 3, Hydra Stomper. I almost chose the Ironmonger for this spot, but I just can't get over how unrealistic it would be for Obadiah Stane to be inside of that armor. But the Hydra Stomper is huge. I can believe little Steve Rogers fitting in there. This thing is a literal tank. Position it well, because if it falls, it might put a damn hole in your floor. The matte army green finish is perfect. The back of it has these huge tanks with fire shooting from the bottom. All of the small sculpt details and massive size makes this figure a head turner. Number 2, Surtur. I rarely buy figures from live action inspiration, but this tall son of a bitch fits in really well on my Thor comic shelf. While he isn't actually comic accurate, he matches just fine. To receive a figure this massive at this price point is shocking, especially considering how well the translucent plastic looks. They gave it a great paint app on the front and didn't really skimp on any of the sculpt work. He comes with an impressive sword with just amazing detail. Just overall wonderful release for the deluxe line. Number 1, MODOK. Toy Biz made such an impressive MODOK Build-A-Figure that I honestly never cared if Hasbro remade this one. But they did, and they showed me just how wrong I was. They nailed every single factor about him. Look at that ugly bastard. He's in scale and has a lot of paint apps that really sell the design. A great wash over the skin, painted hair for better depth, And they even took the time to paint the white pupils. White pupils! Amazing. And he comes packed in with a face swap that fits inside of him so that you don't have to lose the one you're not using. Tons of tiny details are sculpted onto this chair, along with a movable controller. Finished off with a sweet flame effect, I couldn't have asked for anything more. Next up, we have my top Build-A-Figures of 2021. Starting off at number 3, Armadillo. This was a character that I almost forgot existed, but I lit up when I heard that Hasbro was going to make him. They dug deep in their toy bag for this one and provided one of the most impressive sculpts that we've ever gotten. Articulation wasn't perfect, and I would have preferred a little bit more paint on the scales, but I can't really complain too much because look at all of the sculpt work. This is a chunky figure that looks imposing set up to fight Spider-Man or Captain America. These folds look amazing, and they did a great job on the chest paint and even the claws. Every time I want to complain about something, I just look over and see an impressive chunk of plastic. Number 2, Age of Apocalypse Colossus. This was so close to being my number 1 Build-A-Figure of 2021. His metallic sculpted skin is amazing. They nailed it, it's perfect. It's a showstopper. His stature is perfect, and to be so huge, they even added things like double jointed elbows so that he can still get into some really cool poses. I love the facial expression, and even though he didn't come with accessories, which aren't common for BaFs, he poses so well with Shadowcat. I consider her his accessory. I really love this figure, y'all. If you're wondering why he isn't number 1, it's because the red shoulder pad and strap really needs a black wash to bring out the details. And the yellow harness looks like the cheapest plastic they could find. I'm actually considering removing that yellow altogether and giving him a red wash for myself, because that would make him one of my favorite Build-A-Figures of all time. He really is something to behold. And number 1, Ursa Major. It's a goddamn bipedal mutant grizzly bear with perfect sculpting and top-notch paint details. What else do I have to say? This was definitely my favorite wave of the year too. I didn't expect him, but I desperately wanted him. You can pose him as a villain or as a hero. You can pose him with the Winter Guard or as a random mutant. Hell, you can pose him with other lines if you need someone to fight a bear. Just look at all the paint, shading, and everything that Hasbro did. They didn't skip out on a single thing. They faded in some tiny details on the face, all over the fur, and even on the claws. Look at the paint. A movable jaw would have made this one of the greatest BaFs of all time, but I'm just nitpicking at this point because this guy is a literal beast and my favorite Build-A-Bear ever. Before we finish, one last award. We had some awesome special releases in the Marvel Legends line for 2021. I really want to get that Eye of Agamotto piece for my collection, so that's an honorable mention. But you know what's going to win for the year. It's the Hazlab Sentinel. It wasn't cheap, so it needed to be really good, but this was truly a feat. Standing over 26 inches tall, this is the biggest Marvel Legend ever made. Its frame is comprised of 260 individual pieces. It's 72 points of articulation? 20 in each hand alone. He's loaded with LED lights and came with a huge bendy wire tentacles to snatch up the X-Men. All 4 tiers were unlocked, so we got the Master Mold alternate head, a Tri-Sentinel head, a battle damaged head and hand, a female Prime Sentinel figure, as well as the Bastion figure with an interchangeable head for himself. This is truly a masterpiece. I'm lucky to have gotten some good knees on mine, but even if you didn't, it was an easy fix. This massive mutant hunter is the centerpiece of any collection and has set the aftermarket on fire. I loved it so much that I'm considering opening my second one instead of using it as trade bait. We are truly lucky to have all of these releases, and Hasbro doesn't seem to be slowing down anytime soon. So, who are you most looking forward to for 2022? I think I'm the most excited for Iron Spider, Comic Doctor Strange, Ulick, and most of all, No. What did you agree with or disagree with? Go to the comments and let me know how stupid I am.
I can feel your anger.
Don't forget to hit the bell and click subscribe. I'd love to do more figure reviews if that's something you want to see. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram to keep up with everything we're doing here at Fanatic Now. And until then, later, Fanatics.